Namaste. Welcome to Satsang today. So, generally, loosely, a theme comes for the Satsang, sometimes a few days before, sometimes a few hours, and sometimes a few minutes. And then, based on what's been happening in the preceding days, what questions have been asked, etc. And occasionally, no theme comes at all. Today, though, this subject that keeps popping up over the last few days, I really wanted to perhaps try to bring some clarity to it. And that is, what is it that seems to allow one person to really wake up and fully live as their real nature? And the next person seems to, or next non-person seems to struggle or stay stuck in one particular place. We've all had parts of our awakening where we seem to be doing okay. There's insights coming, etc. And we might feel our life is changing. And we've all had the opposite as well, where we feel totally stuck and, I don't know, maybe caught in a loop. I remember that feeling myself, stuck in some place. I didn't even really know where I was stuck. So I wanted to look at that, see if we can bring some more insight to it, because there are those few and far between beings who can look at the truth, experience it once or twice, and begin to just live like that. And for most of us, and it certainly wasn't that way for me, it's a process of seeing the truth over and over and over again, that I'm not a separate person, that I'm not even an object, I'm not a someone. And in that seeing, then allowing that which is experienced to begin to change and pervade the way I think. And there's nothing wrong with our mind, but perhaps the fact that it tends to think the same thoughts over and over again. And when I looked at my own awakening, the deepening peace and a sense of silence being my real nature was happening slowly but surely, and very, very gradually. But there were parts of my life that just weren't changing. In fact, were seeming to get worse. Certain relationships, you probably know finances were a huge thing, challenging area for a long time in other areas of my life. And when I started to look at what the reason for that was, why were some areas of my life really improving and some not? Some even going backwards, it seemed. It was always because those areas that weren't flowing, my thought structure had not changed. And it struck me one day that I had just come out of a self-inquiry session, and I'd seen and recognized that I don't have a location, that I am equally present everywhere, because I can't find myself as a something. My body's a something. That I can't find myself in one place. I am that in which places appear. I am that in which objects appear, phenomena come and go. And even after such a powerful seeing, I found myself 5 minutes later worrying about how much money there was for the rest of the month. And there was way more month than money, you know, if you've ever been in that position, you'll know how or any sense of lack, there's always a strong pull to go towards the thoughts. And it really impacted me that as much as I've seen who I really am, it's somehow not um softening or changing the way that mind thinks at all. It's just totally this is how I think. I look at the amount of money that's in my account and I freak out. You know, there's fear, there's a whole tsunami of thoughts, and this is the way that I always think. Even after being able to actually prove my own omnipresence, the one being is what I am. I'm formless and infinite. Still, the default setting in the mind was this, there's not going to be enough. And what am I doing wrong as separate being? And, you know, whatever thoughts came, it's hard to remember exactly what they were now, luckily, but I know there were a lot of thoughts and they're all in separation. And so I started to really investigate this. If the amount of abundance that I'm experiencing in any area, so abundance of finances, having enough is my definition of abundance, never being able to run out, of being so sure of not being able to run out that I don't need to spend any time thinking about it. That's so peace, finances, energy, well-being, friendships, whatever it is I want, I want to experience. Wherever there wasn't abundance flowing, it was where the thoughts had not changed. And if you notice those areas, it's excruciatingly painful, right, spiritually, to keep thinking that same old way after having some kind of seeing, even if you haven't had any seeing yet of who you really are. That's okay, because still you can apply what's gonna we're gonna want to talk about. And if you haven't had a scene of who you are, I'm very, very happy to do self-inquiry with people later when we open it up for questions. Always happy to do self-inquiry. Always really excited to watch someone come to a direct experience that they're not who they think they are. So it began to become clear that any problem I was having in my world, even in my awakening, was a reflection of these separate thoughts as a separate self. And I began to look at my thoughts in terms of two categories. Is this how a separate being would think? A separate someone, a person? Or is this how the infinite or the one being would think? And you'd probably not be surprised to know that only 100% of my thoughts were in separation. Only 100% in these areas. And it became clear that actually, if my seeing of who I am isn't penetrating into my thought structure, there must be some unwillingness inside me without realizing, some allegiance to these thoughts. So I started to really try to notice the thoughts more as they came up. And that's significant because I had been trying to look away from them, and I was being the awareness, but as a way of avoiding looking at what needed to be seen. So only you know, but maybe just making a little note mentally to look at, where am I hiding a little bit from looking at what needs to be looked at? No blame, no shame or anything, just an old habit. And then just sitting with the question, how would the infinite self think about this situation? Or how would the one being, how would reality look at this, think about this? And it seemed quite absurd, right? How that which is everywhere and omnipresent, how would it think about this? Well, it probably wouldn't think about it at all. Well, you know, as a human being, maybe it does. So I remember the first time I was able to have this thought that came after this question, how would the infinite self think about this? I don't know how much money is going to come in for the rest of the month. And that was a hugely different thought. Huge. Because before, without realizing it, I've been certain I did know and that it was not going to be enough. And that thought it was like a door that opened. I don't know, actually. If I'm really honest, I don't know how much money is going to come in. I know what I can see based on what's going on in the rest of the month. And it felt lighter, it felt freer. And I got kind of a little bit excited for the first time in a long time. Okay, how else would the infinite self think? Like, what am I assuming that I keep living? Because I'm assuming I keep living it. And thoughts began to happen like, I'm not only this one body. And then the next thought, I've been focusing on this one body. When I look at my finances, I automatically zoom right back into one body and mind, even after seeing that I am everything and everywhere. And I got a little on a roll then, and I just sat with my journal and wrote down some thoughts that felt freer, actually, and eventually arrived at the thought, I really don't know what's going to happen. And that would have been a terrible thought from the mind. I don't know what's going to happen. And that was actually a usual thought for me. From the sense of a separate self. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what's going to happen, how I'm going to make it through. But there was this same thought, but it came from a different place. I don't know what's going to happen. And it was open. It was open. And I got really excited, right? I was like, I'm really starting to see something really important here. That if I just have the same old thoughts, then I'm going to have the same old results. And I'm not talking about sorting through all of your thoughts, because that would make you a separate person. But just coming from the biggest place of openness you can and looking at what thoughts do I always think in this situation when this same thing happens? And then just with sitting with the question, and you can write them down, the usual suspects. How would the infinite self look at this? What would reality think about this? Whatever version of that question works for you. And it began to become clear that some bodies have more than enough already. Some really don't have enough right now. Some are just breaking even. Some are on the up, some are on the down financially. And of course, this is just one area of my life, but I started to apply it to all areas as soon as I realized. And the feeling of openness and lightness it gave me. And you can do this whether you've seen who you are or not. Even theoretically, we can know, even just mentally, if there's only one being, then everything I experience is myself. Everyone, all bodies are mine. And I can't even spend or save money or earn money. I mean, the body might still do those actions, of course, but I can't really buy it the same up here now. So which areas of your life are you noticing aren't changing? And do you even know what thoughts you're thinking in that area? And can you bring some awareness to that and be open to change it? Not making it change, just sitting with the question, how would the infinite self see this? Or think about this? And the first time I asked that question, I don't know. I really don't know. And I don't want to ask this question and go have a cup of tea instead, or all kinds of resistance. But that was only from the momentum of the habit. This is how I think about money. This is how I've always thought about money. I go into freak out mode, panic, all the rest. And then into self-blame because I still haven't managed to fix it, and on it goes. And we've all got some version of that in some area of our life, or maybe 2 or 3 areas. Or maybe your whole life is on fire right now. Who knows? But the time between that being a challenge, a real thing you can't break through, and it actually reflecting back abundance to you is going to be how much you're open to this, right? Because the real self is the real self already. It's already free as the awareness, but it cannot really flow through a very contracted, separate self thought structure. It's going to have to poke its way through, and it takes, however long that takes. But we can open the door here with some willingness, and maybe even take the door off the hinges. Like, why do I think this way? Just because I've always thought this way. So when I really started to apply questions like this, things began to change. And eventually it just became clear, oh yeah, I'm still thinking in the old way. And as soon as I noticed that, there was a willingness to think differently, not a choosing, because that would make me behave as a separate person. I'm going to find some new thoughts and write them down. I did that, but it made me an apparent doer, and it felt terrible. Letting the self speak through my mouth and think as my brain and all of that stuff, which is my own self anyway, instead of letting the false self think just on autopilot, right? Just running on pure habit only. And then there was some light was allowed to come through, and most importantly, can't suffer. And abundance then reflects in all ways: abundance of time, energy, well-being, friendship, love, compassion, patience, wisdom, financial, physical, anything in it, whatever it is you feel you're lacking, there'll be an abundance of it. More than enough. Not being able to ever run out in your experience of that thing. Even life itself, when you stop believing in death, when you change how you think about death and life, you can never run out of life either. Just bodies coming and going in your experience is all. Parent bodies. So never being able to run out even of life. Because the awareness, the infinite self, is free already, but it can still live for a long time like someone who's limited and bound and lost. And actually, at the end of the day, for me, it just came down to the same old thoughts. It hadn't even occurred to me that I could actually be open. If I'm not choosing my thoughts, which I'm not, but those thoughts are chosen on default by agreeing with the experience, and more thoughts about the experience, more of the experience, more thoughts about the experience, and around it goes. And that could go on forever if we don't interrupt that cycle somehow. And here's a way to do that, right? And it sounds strange to ask, how would the Supreme Self, Parabrahman, think about my money situation? But it is you. You are it already. Let's not force it through this tiny aperture, infinite abundance through this tiny separate self thought that only has just enough wiggle room to keep the body alive. It's time for infinite abundance in all ways: joy, peace, satisfaction, a sense of contribution, passion, purpose, vitality, well-being, whatever it is you want. Whatever it seems to be lacking is only where the thought structure has been like this for a very long time. And something inside us wants to protect it then, because this is how we do it. It's just how we think about this. If you can feel inside that there's something that doesn't even want to try to change the thoughts or be open to new ways of thinking, it's okay, right? The good news is when you start to think like the infinite self, you'll have resistance to changing that too. You'll be unable to go back to thinking in separation. And then after a short while of thinking as the infinite self, all thoughts fall away. All thoughts. But not because you made them go silent. When you know there's more than enough of anything you need, why do you need to think or worry about it? So hope that is helpful, because there is some areas of our lives where we all feel a sense of lack, a sense of not being able to break through, right? And it's usually just down to this. It's usually only down to this. So I will read 2 questions that have been sent in, and then I'll open it up for questions here. We'll take up to 5 hands on here, 5 questions. If you want to raise your hand now, you can. This first one says, in directing my attention to the self and abiding in silence, in directing my attention to the self and abiding in silence, what are some good ways to release emotional energies that often flow through the body, like shame, disappointment, anxiety, etc.? Any direction would be so helpful. Peace and love. Well, when your attention is on that which is real, silence, the real self, whatever name we give it, you cannot resist the flow of these energies. In the openness of who you really are, you won't be able to resist. And that's why sometimes we might notice emotions coming up really quite strongly after we are recognizing who we are more and more. But if those emotions are sometimes a little lodged in the body, stuck in the tissues, the contemplation that we do, asking the emotion, the belief underneath it, most of us focus on the thoughts coming from the emotion. So all the thoughts I've just been talking about, the way I think about money, were coming from fear. And then underneath fear, there's a belief that I haven't seen. I'm not safe. So we use a question to undo. If you question if something is true, you can't believe it's true at the same time. So on the YouTube channel here, there's when this is uploaded, there will be a playlist called Contemplation. And it's really learning how to work with a belief and turn it into a question. So for the large part, ignoring the thoughts about money, you can also work the way I've said today as well. That would help. And looking at the emotion underneath all of this stuff going on. For me, that was fear and shame as well. Shame because I couldn't seem to fix this financial problem, said the mind. But when I actually asked shame itself what it wanted to tell me, it said I didn't deserve to exist. And fear said, you're not safe. So how can I ever really experience a lot of abundance with those beliefs still running the show underneath? Trying to force infinite abundance through this, you don't deserve to exist. It's really not going to go so well, right? So being who you really are as much as you can as the first one. Contemplation definitely is the second. And if you can find it, some good acupuncture helps if there's a lot of trapped emotion in the tissues and the meridians, just to help speed up what's already going on. So hope that helps. The second one says, hi, Helen. Recently, there was a recognition of awareness, being aware of awareness. I noticed there was no thought happening at this time. This empty mind lingered. And while it did, I had the sneaking suspicion that the world of appearances had nothing at all to do with awareness itself. With no mind, there is no world. Everyone actually knows this when they go to sleep at night. Many teachers say the world is an expression of the divine, which sort of implies cause and effect. But after this seeing, I'm not so sure about that. Does the rope know anything about the snake? Can you bring this together for me? Thank you. So the analogy is I'm walking along in the dark or the twilight, and on the road in front of me, there's a rope. And you've seen this in many of the famous scriptures. And because it's twilight, my eyes look at it and see a snake. So there's like tremendous fear inside or something. And as I get closer, I see it's just a rope. It isn't what I think it is at all. Because this is an analogy for all of manifestation is not what I think it is. It's all made out of the one being. There are no objects independent of, this is not a body, really. These aren't words. There aren't really such thing as thoughts. And you said here, does the rope know anything about the snake? Snake. Snake or snake? Uh, maybe the rope likes to dance as the snake. The rope always being free could like to play as the snake, right? To use that analogy. Many teachers say the world is an expression of the divine, which sort of implies cause and effect. Well, not really. The appearance of something doesn't mean it's actually there. Creation isn't an actual thing. The world hasn't arisen out of the self. It only seems to have. So we could also use the analogy of the wave on the ocean surface. The ocean's calm, then a wave arises. It looks like something's happened, but not actually. It's still all water. It just looks different. Or the mirage in the road on a hot day. It looks like water's there. When you get closer, there's nothing there at all. It looks like there's a thing. And when you look at it really closely, there's no thing at all. And I was watching a pan of water boiling one day, and I really got this. The water boils, steam begins to rise off it. And the steam looks different to the water that's boiling, right? It looks gaseous and vaporous rather. And it looks a different shape and it's going in different directions, whereas the water's just here. This is liquid and this looks like a vapor, but is it really different? The manifestation's kind of like the vapor, it's just kind of rising off of the infinite self made of the same stuff. The unmanifest looking manifest is not actual manifest. In fact, manifest means, in one of its definitions, to make visible that which was previously invisible. So it's already here. It's not an actual happening creation. It's just some vibration slowing down so that we can see it with our senses. And we think something's happened. We think this is actually different than that from which it was made. So like something changed in that formless self. So an expression of, or if we paint a picture on a canvas, the picture that's there when we finish is not different than the paint itself, right? The picture of a beautiful flower is not an actual flower, it's still paint. Although we look at that, it's a beautiful flower. So cause and effect seems to have happened, but really nothing at all is going on. Without your senses right now, can you prove there's any objects at all, like you said, in deep sleep? Absolutely not. None of this is what it looks like. And it looks like, even for me now, it looks like a phenomenal universe full of objects and feels like I'm sitting in this chair saying these words. But I know it isn't true. Otherwise, I would fear this body going, right? I would fear that I would go. So, yeah, it's just a world of appearances. There seems to be. It's a giant, three-dimensional, real-time, ongoing hallucination that we're all agreeing with each other. And then we start to think about what we think is here. And it seems even more real that objects are actually separate to me and that phenomena really exist, independent of the self, the infinite self. So hope that helps. Let's start with Elaine when you're ready. Thank you. Hi, love.
Hi. I'm just going back to speaker. I don't want to see everyone. Um, when you were talking, I found it really difficult to listen. So I want you to repeat something for my benefit because all that was screaming inside me was, I don't trust. I have a lack of trust. I don't trust what I'm hearing. I don't trust myself. I don't trust you. I don't trust the world. And that keeps repeating within me. And well, my attention goes to what feeds that.
Mhm.
Even though there's something in me that feels that um, not just that that's not so, but that, the attention of distrust is about this, but it becomes much bigger.
Yeah.
And everything else that's present or happening or whatever, no attention is given to.
Yeah.
Um,
This tiny little thought grows a whole thought tree, and all attention goes to it. And yeah,
yeah. And it's a reoccurring pattern. And then, things occur to feed that,
yeah.
to
Life
feed
keeps
that
agreeing with
distrust. And
you.
like,
Yeah.
it's really dangerous. It is. Look what just happened. Like you say, like I've heard you say so many times, and it's too uncomfortable to sit on my hands. And before I knew what happened, it had pressed that button, and I thought, oh God, here I go again. Feeling
You
quite
hate it when
stupid.
you really, really want to just like sit on your hands and it goes and presses the Zoom hand anyway. It's like, why'd you do
Yeah, and
that?
it was too late.
Why'd you do
Yeah.
that, body? Yeah. So let's just ask this question for a few minutes together without needing anything from it, right? How would the infinite self think about this issue? So just to ask, okay, how would it think? I know how my mind or my separate sense of self would think about this, but how would the infinite self think about this, the one being? And we don't need any answers at all. We don't have to make answers appear. Just sitting with the question, right? And maybe even just with being with the question, there's a openness that wasn't there before. Just a different way out than we've tried before, something like that. Does your body feel any different just asking this?
um, no, actually, my feet aren't on the ground. Let me get my feet on the ground. Um, it felt like I'm challenging that by bringing this forward anyway. If I'm saying, I don't trust what this person is saying, and yet I'm going to tell
You're
them,
asking for help anyway.
I'm asking for advice from somebody I've decided I don't trust. So,
Can you have a
if
new thought right there? Could you say, um, maybe there's two parts of me. One already trusts because here I keep showing up for satsang anyway
yeah,
and
mm,
raising my hand. And the other part of me might never trust. So
yeah,
before we ask this question or raise our hand, there's only the idea that I don't trust. Maybe now we might have a little crack open in the window. There's two parts of me actually.
yeah,
Something within you does trust, right? And something doesn't.
yeah.
And you don't have to marry those together. In fact, I really wouldn't try.
No. Funnily, when you were saying that, the I found that I grimaced at the part that does that. Oh, anyway, I grimaced and smiled in the opposite way I thought I would. I can't remember what that was. It was just a physical facial thing. Um,
Does that part of you that trusts already and had the
mm,
sense to put your hand up, is it trying to kill the other part of you that doesn't trust?
mm, no.
Because the little self says, I don't like the big self,
Mm,
It doesn't have any problems. It's okay.
yeah.
But it's really a rejection of what's real because we feel we might be annihilated. Our little self feels, our false self feels,
Yeah.
I'm in deep trouble if I accept the real self. But if you actually look, has awareness ever done anything to you or your thoughts or done any kind of
No.
mental, physical, emotional violence?
No.
In fact,
I,
let's go one step further. Has it
I
done any?
just hear myself saying that. It's
It's fine now,
um
right?
yeah,
The body just does what it does in that moment. And maybe the body's really intelligently helping you by, you couldn't grimace if you didn't have a face, right? You wouldn't know
yeah,
that this kind of resistance inside.
yeah.
So what if you make that your where you're going to hang out for a little while in your thoughts? There's two parts to me. There's two sides to this coin, not just one. Just hang out there for a while and see where that takes you.
Mm,
The more I did that, the more I realized um, not only does the infinite self um, have no capacity to get rid of, annihilate anything,
mm,
least of all the separate self, it kind of looks at it like it would a little pet or a small child or someone that really needs help, you know?
mm. Yeah. Yeah. Funnily enough, I've got uh a kind of sore throat, and there's mm, a feeling of wanting, not wanting to cry, a feeling of crying, but not
Mm.
any physical. So it's, yeah.
I cried for about 4 hours straight when I realized the real self could never do anything to harm anything, and that
Mm,
all the resistance to awakening was about this belief in the separate sense of self that it's too dangerous or I'm going to be annihilated by the real self. You know, I'd
mm,
read that nirvana means annihilation. I'm like, oh my God, you know, and when I really got it, I just started sobbing and sobbing. It's annihilation of the capacity to judge or limit ourselves only, right? You can express yourself as a separate self or the infinite self, and the real self is never going to tell you what to do. It just can't. If you want to believe and stay in this not trusting, it will let you do that for 100 million imagined lifetimes and more.
yeah.
For me, there was just such a relief in that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Apart from that doesn't trust wants to be told um, that there is something to trust. But,
Can that part
I
of you
don't think
know?
that's possible, is it?
No, it really can't hear what we're saying right now, that bit of you, right?
Yeah.
It's like we're talking in a different language
Yeah.
because all it can do is like wait for the apocalypse, you know,
Yeah.
that it
Yeah.
thinks is
Yeah.
coming.
Yeah.
And when I saw that, I just started to feel such love for it
Mm,
because it really can't do anything else than freak out. But as I'm loving it more, somehow it just started to disappear. Well, it never was there, but I stopped
yeah.
resurrecting it all the time.
Yeah. Mm, mm. My body feel well, this body is um, quite settled. I
Perfect.
think, yeah. So
Wonderful. Thank you for bravely sharing.
thank you.
Christine?
Hey, Helen.
Hi.
Um, well, what Elaine said also resonates with me. I think, well, everything you said really. This week, I feel like I had that feeling of um, feeling stuck,
Mhm.
and um, when you kind of talked earlier about kind of there's one area of your life that really kind of makes you like those thoughts. And it really comes down to like that um feeling of separateness, and it's really like around work, and I would say a little bit around family too, but in work, like I almost, when I'm in that, I can't see, and it was like building up this whole week, like there was like frustration and those kind of thoughts, and like that it's really hard to see that like that I'm not separate and I'm not the doer in this situation, and I'm not having to have other people do things, and so I think that's where I felt like I couldn't see out of it, and even when I was trying to meditate this week, or like I would have, I could feel the space and all of that when you like what is here, like awareness, but the idea of where does it end and others begin, like that there is no real separateness, like it's not sinking in
Yeah.
all the way.
So you want to look at that bit of it, or do you want to look at the place you felt stuck?
I think it comes down to that the separateness, because it feels like I'm interacting with others, and that's
Let's look at that then, because that's
okay.
a fundamental assumption we all have, isn't it?
Mm.
So I'm going to ask you a weird question. What proof do you have that there's any other beings? What proof can you give me? I know it's a weird question.
I mean, it feels like I'm talking with other people, see them.
Yeah. And a feeling, it feels like right now I'm talking to you. It feels like I'm talking to you and you're talking to me. But is a feeling a good enough evidence? Is that feeling there all the time? Is it permanent and unchanging, like the real self? Can you have that feeling when you're asleep at nighttime, or under anesthesia, or without a body?
No.
So we're just going to start to sort the evidence for other beings into permanent and not permanent and see what remains. So if I am not a phenomenon, if I am that in which they all appear, can I use any phenomenal evidence to tell me what's real about me? Big question, I know, but if you are the infinite consciousness, can you point to anything that's happening inside you and say, that's going to tell me about me?
No. No.
Wonderful. So can we use any thoughts about other beings, feelings about other beings, emotions, experiences even of other beings as good evidence of is there actually any other being? Take your time with this one. It's good. It's juicy. If thoughts and emotions and experiences, and everyone can look at this as well, we can all do this together. Thoughts and emotions, I'm thinking about this person and I get really angry when I think about them and I keep having the same experience with them. Is any of that permanent and unchanging?
No.
And even the body and the senses and the mind itself, is any of that permanent?
No.
Wonderful. So I'm going to ask you again, what evidence do you have that you want to give me now that there are any other beings?
Yeah. I can't.
And how does that feel in your body when you admit that?
Like I felt like I wanted to like laugh for a second. That yeah.
And it's not an avoidance of reality or anything. It's just a recognition that all of my evidence for the fact that there's all these other beings is coming from something that is not permanent. Maybe I can start to see when I look as awareness itself, there's not even a separate me, let alone anyone else. There's just awareness. And then for a short time while the body's here and the senses and the mind, it seems like also that there's a world of other beings. But the more I see that that's coming from unreliable evidence, beautiful evidence, we can have a party with this manifestation when we get the truth. But we don't want to rely on manifestation for anything important in a decision like this, right? In a recognition. Because if you don't think about, if you had no history or future now to think about and no senses, you couldn't tell me anything about this phenomenal world. You'd have no evidence at all that any of it exists. So we're just coming to clarity that there's only this, there's only me, the infinite me. And for a short while, there seems to be a phenomenal world and lots of other beings. But it's only a seems to be. We can really only eventually rely on that which is going to be here forever. And enjoy the seems to be of all of this more and more. Can kind of get a sense of it, right? If there's really no one else here, you know, I could run around never mind that one. Yeah, I'm just having a bit of fun. But you get where I'm going with this, right? There's
I do.
two ways to look at yourself. One is through the senses and the mind, and one is as the awareness directly itself.
Mhm.
The awareness is always going to show you there's just awareness, just you. The senses and mind are always going to seem to indicate a world of an infinite number of beings, creations, forms.
Mm.
You can feel a little loosening in that, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, I think um when I'm in that situation, maybe that's where it feels almost like I bought into it and stepping, I don't want to say back out, feels challenging, but I could see
Can I go a
exactly.
little further with this?
Yeah.
Is there any evidence that you went into this, you bought into it and have to come back out? What evidence are you using for that?
Mm.
It seems like I went back with thoughts again and my body got all contracted and I had this really same old experience. And then I had to dig myself out of it again and come all the way back to the self, the awareness. But do you still want to hold on to that if we can't use any phenomenal evidence to tell you about you? Anything from manifestation?
Mm.
Is there any real evidence that you got lost and you found your way back?
No, no real evidence, no, just the feelings and the thoughts. Yeah.
When I started to really look at this, I saw if I keep looking to manifestation, it's beautiful, it's wonderful, it's diverse, seemingly. But I can't keep referencing it to tell me what's going on with me. Or else I'll forever feel I lost it, I found it. I lost it, I found it. I went out, I came back. I forgot. I remembered. And I did this for about 13 years, and it was really boring, painful 13 years. So finally, I came to see Actually, when I look at awareness itself as awareness, I have no capacity to forget, remember, go out, come in. It's only an illusion that seems to be happening when there's a body and mind present, right? Attention turns away from me and looks at thoughts, and then the body gets contracted and there's emotions and then there's some experience. And eventually at some point attention goes, whoa, wait, I don't want to do that. And it turns back and looks at me. What's happened to me in that?
Mm.
I'm watching the whole show.
Thank you. Yeah.
Wonderful. Love, love, love the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Elaine? Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much.
Hi. I'm glad you put your hand up. I didn't get a chance to get back to you in the other satsang, so thank you.
That's really okay. So for decades and decades and decades and decades since my little sister was born, I imagined that there was not enough of anything. My sister came, and then there was not enough money, so there was hardship about it. There was not enough love.
Mhm.
And so my parents were not going to dote on me because now they had a little baby. And that has happened in some form for as long as I can remember.
Mhm.
So even though I've had a very strong sense that love can only grow, um, um, I, there feels a stuckness about there's not enough, and it pervades money, absolutely. Just, but I think I'm ready to take a really good look at it now, and hopefully see through it, because it really is a yucky thing that holds me in contraction, even
If you
when I'm
see that it's an area where you tend to think in the same way over and over again.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Let's play with this then. How would the infinite self think about money? And again, not trying to make an answer appear here. We're just going to hang out with this question. How would the reality, how would the one self think about this? And we're just curious. We're just going to see what happens here. Not having to make answers appear, just chilling out with the question.
I have no idea.
No idea. And that's okay, right? Does your body feel different even just from asking the question? Yeah.
Right. No, I was judging myself for not having the answer.
So
Don't know.
even just to see there might be a different way to think is okay, right?
Yes.
So can you just cultivate this openness towards how the self would think here? I mean, even to ask, what are some original thoughts here, some fresh thoughts, some new perspectives? And you'll notice your body starts to respond immediately, going, yeah, I like that actually. Can you feel it?
Yes. Yes. Like 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 the thought came, what is money anyway? Or what is what is well, not, the other one is what is love, but that
Yeah.
one doesn't feel true. It's sort of like knows what love is. But
So
what
the
is money?
thought came, what is money anyway? Have you ever had that thought before?
No. No.
And it feels fresh, right? It feels juicy. It's like, ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's just from like a minute of sitting with this question.
Yeah.
So make yourself a cuppa and, put your feet up and get your notebook out and go, what other thoughts are waiting, like unwrapped Christmas presents that I can dive into? And you can kind of feel there's something real here, right? There's a curiosity and an openness that is how the real self would live. As a marked contrast, not conflict, but contrast with this. I'm sure this is what's real. You know, the mind says, there's just not going to be enough. I know what money is. I know how much there is. And I know there's not going to be enough. I am so certain of that. You feel that kind of. So he would just like, what if I'm just not sure even how to think about this for once? And then there's an opening there.
Yes. Yeah. And the same thing with like jealousy or love, like there's just not enough. So if somebody loves me and then they love her or someone else, then there's not enough love. They'll stop loving me, or there won't be enough. So
How much love is there was a question that was really useful for me. And how many beings are there to love? You know, because jealousy ruled my entire, well, ruined my life for a long time. You probably don't believe it now looking at me, but it's jealousy and desperation fueled my entire awakening. So right there with you. But it's all from a belief in not enough, right? Somebody else has what I want or need. Therefore, there's not enough for me. So even just to be open there, right? Just okay, we're on a roll here. I'm going to sit with, you know, and I'll make a list, one page in my journal, money, and then love, and you know, whatever I want to do, and I'll just sit and how would the infinite self think about this? And it's so much fun as well, right? Because finally you don't feel stuck
yeah,
anymore.
yeah, absolutely. Thank you,
Wonderful.
thank you, thank you,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank
See you,
you.
see you in October.
Yay! Wonderful. Big hugs. Yeah. Okay, we'll go to Lean.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I think I have a bit the same feeling sometimes, like Elaine. I mean, the first Elaine that I also tend to ask questions, and then I'm also like, why do I want questions? Because then I'm always nervous to ask a question.
And the hands reach for the button and you're like, stop it. Yeah. Yeah. I've done it by yourself. Yeah. It's just you and me though, right? We're just having a laugh and yeah,
Yes.
it's all fine. Just for now, we'll pretend there's no other beings. Yeah. Well, yeah.
Maybe not just pretend.
Yeah. If you want to go all the way, then yeah, you're just talking to yourself today. So no big deal. Nobody to judge
That
you.
isn't. Mm. There's some kind of question I would like to ask. It's like, or maybe I'll give some kind of example, but it's like something that something that comes back sometimes. But for example, it's maybe a little bit about inside outside, and it's much clearer that there is not really any inside outside.
Mhm.
But so for example, I had in a situation with someone, I felt ignored, and I found that very difficult to feel that. And at first, because it's situation was like that, so it was, and I felt it strongly, so it was difficult to, um, yeah, to look at what am I believing, because it was painful and the situation like that. But so I did like start to feel what is the feeling, what is the belief, and I started to see that more clearly, and which was very helpful because I could see that it was really because I was believing certain things.
Mm.
And well, because this person was also quite open, I was able to communicate that this was what I could see, a belief and conditioning. We could talk about it, which was nice. But I don't know if the question is clear. Sometimes I also wonder, um, like, well, in this situation, I don't know how it's going to evolve because this was recent. But imagine that the situation continues like this, where the person doesn't respond, for example, or um, you know, like I can go back to the belief and seeing, and but like, is it also important in the so-called outside world to set boundaries or to go away from a situation that doesn't feel good, or because if I don't, sometimes this is confusing inside. There's no inside outside. I see that my beliefs are really creating what is out there, like it's a reflection, it's coming up at the same time. So if I'm not believing it anymore, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to ask.
And let's go to the my beliefs. If I transcend my belief, it's not just happening in that body there, right? If you do some contemplation or something, and you let go of something, believing something that is reflecting as an experience with that person, it has to affect not only your body but their body, because there is no you and them. There's no inside outside, as you said. And the question comes from a kind of halfway realization. Okay, I've seen there's no inside and outside, but when I transcend something in here, will it affect my actions out here? Like setting boundaries, as the example. Can it, if this changes in here, out here has to change because they're the same thing.
Mhm.
So how you are with that other person has to change. And how they are with you has to change. So this question came up for me again and again. Okay, I've seen that I'm not unworthy actually, but how do I apply that when I'm with this person next time, or whatever the belief is in the story and experience? But I found that the body just moved differently, said things differently, did things differently, because it was free of having to live this belief over and over again.
Mhm.
So even this idea of will I be able to set boundaries, and or something like that. I just found my mouth saying to someone, please don't speak to me that way. I really don't deserve that. And I was like, did I just say that? And being able to, I heard my body saying, you know what, I'm actually quite tired. I think I'm going to stay home tonight. Or I'm getting tired now. I'm going to go home, instead of, doing what was right for this body as well. So
Mhm.
can you see just still a little division in inner and outer? Will this inner seeing reflect in change outside? Well, it kind of has to, right? It has to, because you that body there might be asking the contemplation question, but it's the being that is everywhere that's actually contemplating. It's the one being that's seeing. Wow. And it uses one body to ask, is it really true that whatever? But it's that's just the nearest body that's open enough to ask the question. Where is contemplation happening? Can we say?
It's not just in this body, it's just, I don't know.
It's a huge realization, right? When you get this. Huge.
Oh, it's not mine.
Yeah. Or it's everyone's. So if you get it, that it's like, oh my goodness. And this question of, it doesn't really matter which body's asking the question. All bodies have to be upgraded in that recognition. The way that they speak to each other, act with each other, all of it. Because there is only one being.
Yeah, I have the feeling that this is becoming clearer and clearer. Like, so now when you say it, it feels much clearer again, but it's like sometimes it's becoming like a bit less clear again. I'm like, do I still have to do something there? I'm like, no. It's really like, but it's like a little bit moving like this.
And it will for a while. It'll be really, really clear, and then, oh, wait a minute, and then it'll be really, really clear, and then, but eventually it will settle in. And really, it's actually not about that, right? It's about the sense of, as someone that can do something with what we're realizing. Okay, how do I apply this to my current problem? Says the imaginary doer. It will be applied. It's already applied before you even step out the door. Everything has shifted in your realization. I'm not unworthy at all, or whatever it is that's realized. Reality has changed, the appearance at least, already in that. But we don't let that happen. We don't let that in because we're so busy trying to figure out how to apply it.
Yeah,
I'm laughing, but it
true.
wasn't funny when I was in that place, you know.
No, but I find it funny. I find the imaginary journalism very funny often.
But this massive seeing, oh my God, I'm everywhere. And then the little self says, okay, what do I do with that? You know, how do I make sure I live this? Which is okay, but you just catch it quicker and quicker, right?
Yeah, that's a bit how it feels that it happens again. Then it's like, yeah, okay. And like I'm confused and then, okay, I see it again.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Thank you. Thanks.
Last but not least is Nate.
Wonderful.
Hi.
Good morning, Helen.
Good morning.
I've had nerve pain in my legs, sciatic pains, for about 8 months. And I've noticed when it feels heavy is when I think I have to fix this. And once I catch that, then the heaviness goes away. There's a sense of sort of elation of, oh no, I don't have, because I have to fix it. There was also, I did this. This is my responsibility. It's my fault.
And then later
So then
I
I
got
feel,
it right. I got rid of it. It worked.
yeah, I got rid of it. I'm doing it right now. I'm with the program. So
I'm
I've
laughing
seen
again
it.
because I remember my own thing.
Yes. So I can see that pattern. I can say, well, that's a wonderful lesson to be free of responsibility for fixing this. And yet, I think I still have a subtle agenda. I want to get rid of this.
Of course you do.
This
Of
is
course you'd rather
my
not be in
body.
pain.
I'd rather not be in pain. But I don't think I fully received the lesson it's giving me that I'm in a body and the pain is wrong. So in thinking about the question, I could say, what would I rather have? No pain and be unhappy, or have pain and not be suffering at all. And of course, I would want that.
There is a third option, though, you know, where we can feel relief in the body and be happy.
All right, let me think about that. This third option, because that still makes me feel like I'm trying to control things. I got to do something to get rid of this, and then I'll be happy.
What if it's the other way around? What if it's because I think I can do something, there's something to do, something to fix?
I'm not sure I fully understood that, but I certainly know the freedom that comes with seeing there's nothing to fix.
So you said when you started that when you stopped trying to fix the pain, the pain went away.
The pain didn't go away, but it stopped bothering me.
Okay,
The
stop
sensation didn't go away, but I felt elated, like, oh, I can live with this pain if I can be this joyful.
So what made the difference in that moment was not finding some solution. It was the recognition that you don't need to fix this, right?
It's not mine.
Not yours.
Yeah.
And I'm just pointing to one level deeper where I realize I can't and have never fixed anything.
Yeah.
And maybe that idea that I could fix something is showing up as reflecting as pain and lack and all the things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's what I wanted to get to, was like, if the pain is sort of a blockage somewhere, I sense that's what the blockage is. There's still this belief in control in general, that I can control these things and make it all right.
Yeah. And it really comes from what you were saying. If you seem to take an action, and it results in the pain getting better, something claims authorship and ownership of it and says, I did the right thing. And then if it doesn't work, seemingly, something claims failure, like you said, it just didn't work. But can we throw both of those out here? What if
Yes.
there's nothing you can do? And what if there's nothing you can do, right? End of sentence.
That would be a wonderful deepening. Because
Would
I've
be
seen,
or is would be.
yes, in the would be, I can see I'm putting it off. And it could be here right now. It could be.
But you're catching it, right? You're seeing it. You're seeing it. You're hearing the words and going, I don't believe that, you know?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, it was
So
great in the future. I'll get this in the future.
yeah, there's some future moment where I'll have this epiphany, but not now. Yeah.
Yeah. Helen's
I'm
always
just
trying to rush me. This is going to take a while.
How long
I
is this
guess,
going to take?
Helen, quit pushing me like this. I'm not ready to be happy.
You're ready to be happy. Yeah. You and Elaine can, the first Elaine can have a little
Yeah, we'll get together.
Yeah.
We'll have a cup. We'll have a cuppa together.
But that's very, very, very English. Thank you. Well done. I know we were practicing at retreat, right?
Yeah.
But to get to the root of it here, something's not ready to be happy. That's okay,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Is that you? Do you want to claim that as you?
I can feel something hanging on to it right now.
Yeah. So something doesn't want to be happy, and it's really stubbornly resistant to even looking at this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And trying to throw stones in bushes over there. Don't look here, look over there. But you're seeing that, right? You're watching that. You're aware of it all.
Where that grab right in that moment when he said you can be free right now, and it was like a little bit of fear that came up.
Let's dig into that then if you want to. What's so scary about being free? Just and you don't even need to tell me, you can of course, but just choosing to look at that. If it brings up fear, the thought of being free right now, or the realization it's possible, let me just look at what that is. It must be that I feel I'm going to lose something or something like
So I was
that.
going to say, I feel like I'm losing myself.
Mhm. Let's just look at that. And are you going to lose yourself in this?
Well,
You don't have to
intellectually,
go through the door. You don't have to actually step into freedom. We're just opening the door and seeing what might happen if you do. So there's no need for the mind to freak out. We're just going, can I lose myself if I walk through this?
I don't know.
That's a different answer, right? The fear is coming from the certainty that I will lose myself. I'm sure. Can you feel the sureness in it? This is going to
Yeah.
cost me something that I can't afford to lose.
Yeah. And I can see that's where the waiting came in, the postponing. Well, if you just give me a little time, I'll be able to let go of this, but don't ask me to do it right now.
100,000 lifetimes later, I'm still not ready. But I imagine lifetimes at least. But just to sit with that, right? I've seen what the assumption is that I'm going to lose myself. And it came up for me as well. I was terrified. And I really applaud your honesty here. And okay, can I just actually question, can I find out before I walk through the metaphorical door if I'm going to actually lose myself? Can I do it in a risk-free way and examine, is this actually what's going to happen? Because
That sounds like postponing.
is it though, or is it intelligently looking at the reasons we're postponing?
You mean, so there's a risk-free way to go through that door?
Yeah, so, well, you can walk through the door having resolved this with no fear. By looking at this now, can you
Mm.
lose your small
Yes.
self when
Yeah, it's just
you realize who you really are? That's what it comes down to,
no,
right?
no, I see that. Once I see the truth, then there's no door, no fear. There's just knowing myself.
So from this side of the door, the separate self side, it seems really real that I have to walk through the door. Really real, terrifyingly real.
Yeah,
But you're already standing on the other side,
yeah, right.
right?
Yes,
And you're just saying to mind, come
yeah,
through. It's okay. Come through.
yeah, right. The mind is creating the door, and then I have to suck it up, and have enough courage to go through that door that doesn't exist. And I'm afraid to go through the door that doesn't exist.
For me, it was like I kept getting to the edge of this imaginary cliff and thinking I had to jump off, and I couldn't do it.
Yeah,
I couldn't
yeah.
do it so many times. And I blamed myself, all of it.
Yeah.
Finally, the thought arose, is this actually real? Is this what's going to actually, do I have to even jump off this cliff?
Yeah.
And I think I
Yeah,
started
I've seen
laughing
that.
actually in the end, because it was just like, oh my God, I've
Yeah.
terrorized myself with this idea for so long and it was never real. It feels real.
Yes, I've seen this, and you and I went through this during retreat, that there is no cliff. But I can see the sciatic pain for me has become another cliff, a subtle cliff without my
And we can
seeing.
create infinite doors and cliffs. But once you've seen through a few of them, you can just look at the next one and go, that's not my issue.
I want to regress for just a second. I think one reason I raised my hand was I've been doing everything I should do about this pain as far as yoga and exercising.
Yeah.
And it was getting better, and now it's been getting worse. And I think I kind of went back into fix it mode.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw it was getting worse, instead of just taking as an invitation to realize this is what freedom looks like.
And that's okay, right? It's just a habit. Something happens in my life and my way of thinking about it is just running on autopilot, and I can just gently shift it over to maybe this is just trying to show me something rather than get my fix it hat on and go to work.
Right. Yeah, I think that's it. It's just another opportunity to notice I slid into fix it mode and control mode.
It's okay. It's just a habit that's falling away. And the sooner you notice it, you come back to clarity. Just being gentle with yourself, right? It happens to us all.
Yeah.
Until it doesn't.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Wonderful.
See you soon.
See you soon. Yeah. Okay. That's a lovely place to leave it for today. Just a quick reminder, there's one more satsang next week, and then we're off on retreat to Madrid. If you're going there, I'll see you there. I'll see you next week at 7 p.m. if you can, UK time. And if not, it'll be recorded. So thank you. Namaste.